Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. So here I have a 3/8 inch AR500 steel plate inside of a mild steel carrier frame. Now, I've already shot this plate a bunch with 223, 9mm, 44 Magnum, 50 caliber muzzleloader, and probably a few other things sort of in the same power class as those. And all of that has done absolutely no damage to the plate. You know, the only visible effect is a little bit of lead residue from bullets that impacted it. And that is exactly what we would expect because, you know, I got this plate from a steel target distributor and it was rated for anything up to 308 full metal jacket ammunition. Now, the question, though, is what if we shot it with a Magnum hunting rifle, like a 7mm Magnum? You know, this is quantitatively more powerful than a 308. You know, it's a little bit smaller diameter bullet, but pretty comparable bullet weight and moving a bit faster, so it has significantly more kinetic energy than a 308. At the same time, it is just still a lead core, copper jacketed bullet moving at normal rifle velocities. So the question is, will that make a difference? I mean, on the one hand, I could see an argument to the effect that, well, a 44 Magnum is quantitatively more powerful than a 357 Magnum, but its ability to penetrate a lot of targets, especially metal targets, is qualitatively about the same. On the other hand, others might argue that, well, because it has more kinetic energy, and especially more kinetic energy per unit area, because of the higher sectional density, that additional energy would allow it to penetrate the plate where a 308 wouldn't. I'm not really sure which of those arguments makes more sense to me, but there's one way to find out for sure. So let's take this plate far enough downrange to mitigate the potential spalling hazard and shoot it with the 7 mag and see what happens. Well, this is an interesting result. For starters, I should probably confess that this may not be an example of my best shooting because I missed the plate twice, and as we would expect, rifle bullets hitting the mild steel frame went right through both the angle iron part of the frame up here and then the hanger bar. But of the 4 shots that did hit the plate, one of them went right through, punched a clean hole that looks like it's almost twice the diameter of the bullet, and then 3 of them were stopped cold with no appreciable cratering or other damage to the surface of the plate. Okay, so our results are a little bit inconclusive, but what conclusions can we draw from this test? Well, for starters, I guess we could say that it's a good idea to follow the caliber recommendations on steel targets because, shooting 3/8 AR500 plate with Magnum rifle calibers, the plate might stop the majority of those rounds, but if even a few of them go through, then that's going to damage the plate, and even the ones that are stopped potentially are going to deposit enough energy that the plate might wear out quicker, might develop cracks over time if it was subjected to, Magnum rifle fire repeatedly over a period of time. Likewise, if you're trying to armor something against Magnum rifle fire, you would want to use something more substantial than 3/8 AR500 plate, because while it might stop a majority of rounds, it's not going to stop all of them, as we've seen here today. But it's still an interesting question as to why the plate stopped 3 of those rounds cleanly and 1 of them went right through. Why the disparity there? Could there have been a soft spot in the plate, a weakness, a material defect of some kind that allowed that 1 bullet to penetrate in that specific location? That's a possibility, I guess. Or another possibility would be that the penetration threshold of 3/8 AR500 steel is perhaps a narrower band or a more abrupt transition than I would have predicted. I mean, intuitively, I would think that if you have a metal plate and you're shooting bullets at it at gradually increasing velocity, up to a certain velocity, they're just going to splatter on the plate. And then as the velocity increases, you'll get to a point where they start to make impact craters in the plate, and those impact craters get deeper and deeper as the velocity increases, until when the crater depth starts to approach the depth of the plate or the thickness of the plate, then they start going clean through. But maybe my intuition is not quite right on that. Maybe, at least with AR500 steel, it's a pretty abrupt transition where as the velocity increases, the bullets don't really do anything to the plate until they get to a certain threshold, and then when they reach that threshold, they penetrate fully. So that's possible. I mean, if that's the case, it would seem that the 7mm Magnum is shooting just below that threshold with enough variability in the muzzle velocity of the bullets that a few of them are just above the threshold, and so while the plate stops most of the bullets, a few of them go right through. That would provide another possible explanation. That's about all I can think of to explain our data. But still, an interesting test, so till next time, thank you for watching the Idahoan Show.